Toad's Adventures. When Toad found himself in a dark dungeon, he flung himself on the floor and cried. "This is the end of everything," he said. "Imagine Toad imprisoned for stealing a motor car and for lurid cheek. Stupid animal that I was," he reproached himself. With lamentations such as these, he passed his days, refusing his meals. Now the jailer had a daughter who assisted her father. The jailer's daughter was particularly fond of animals. This kind-hearted girl said to her father one day, "Father, if you let me look after the toad, I'll make sure he eats." Her father replied that she could do what she liked with him. He was tired of Toad. So that day she knocked at the door of Toad's cell. "Now cheer up, Toad," she said, "and dry your eyes. Please do eat some dinner. See, I've brought you some of mine." It was Bubble and Squeak, and its fragrance reached the nose of Toad, but he stubbornly refused to eat. Instead, Toad wailed and would not be comforted. So the wise girl retired for the time. Bubble and Squeak is a traditional English dish made of leftover vegetables in which the main ingredients are potato and cabbage. It is often eaten with a meat roast, and its name comes from the sound the food makes as it cooks. When the girl returned some hours later, she carried a tray with a cup of fragrant tea steaming on it, and a plate piled up with hot buttered toast. Toad sat up, dried his eyes, sipped his tea, and munched his toast. Before long, he began talking freely. The jailer's daughter saw that this social interaction was doing Toad as much good as the tea. "Tell me about Toad Hall," said the girl. "Toad Hall," said the Toad proudly, "is a gentleman's residence dating from the 14th century. It is 5 minutes from church, the post office, and the golf course. Suitable for—" "Gracious," said the girl, laughing. "I don't want to buy it. Tell me something real about it. But first, wait till I fetch you some more tea and toast." She skipped away and presently returned with a fresh tray full, and Toad, munching on another piece of buttered toast, told her all about Toad Hall. They had many interesting talks together after that, and the jailer's daughter grew very fond of Toad. One morning the girl spoke to Toad in an exceptionally thoughtful manner. "Toad," she said, "I need you to listen carefully. I have an aunt who is a washerwoman." There, said Toad kindly. "Never mind, I have several aunts who ought to be washerwomen." "Do be quiet, Toad," said the girl. "As I said, I have an aunt who is a washerwoman. She does the washing for all the prisoners. If you were to offer her some money, I believe she would let you have her dress and bonnet, and you could escape in disguise. You're very alike in many respects, particularly about the figure." "We're not," said the Toad in a huff. "Toad, I'm trying to help you," exclaimed the girl. Yes, I see, thank you very much," said the Toad hurriedly. "But you wouldn't surely have Mr. Toad going about disguised as a washerwoman?" "I suppose you want to escape in a horse-drawn carriage," the girl retorted. Toad began to see the error of his ways. "You're a kind girl," he said. "Please introduce me to your aunt. I am sure we can come to a mutually agreeable arrangement." Next evening, the girl ushered her aunt into Toad's cell. The sight of certain gold coins sealed the deal. In return for cash, Toad received a cotton print dress, an apron, a shawl, and a black bonnet. The only stipulation the old lady made was that she should be gagged and bound and placed in a corner of Toad's cell. This way, she hoped to escape suspicion that she had helped Toad escape by making it look like she had been attacked. Toad was more than willing to oblige, and when the time came, he tied her up with great gusto. "Now it's your turn, Toad," said the girl. Take off that coat and waistcoat of yours." Shaking with laughter, she helped him into the dress. "You're the very image of her," she giggled. "Now, good luck, Toad." With a quaking heart, Toad set forth cautiously. He was soon surprised to find that the washerwoman's squat figure, in its familiar cotton dress, opened every barred door, including the one that opened onto the outside world. Toad immediately walked toward the nearest town. As he walked along, he spotted some red and green lights a little way off, and the sound of the puffing of engines. "Aha!" he thought, "a railway station." He made his way to the station and found that a train, bound more or less in the direction of his home, was due to leave. "More luck," said Toad as he went off to buy his ticket. He gave the name of the station that he knew to be nearest to Toad Hall, and mechanically reached into his waistcoat pocket for his money. But here the cotton gown thwarted his efforts. As a line began to form behind him, the Toad slowly began to realize that not only was there no waistcoat in the gown, but there was no money either. Forgetting his disguise, the Toad commanded the attention of the clerk. "I am Toad of Toad Hall. I've left my money behind," he offered. "Give me a ticket and I'll send the money on tomorrow." The clerk ignored Toad's request. "Stand away from the window, please, madam," the clerk ordered. Full of despair, he wandered blindly down the platform. What was to be done? As he pondered, he found himself opposite the engine, which was being tended to by its driver. "Hello, madam," said the engine driver. "What's the trouble?" "Oh, sir," said Toad, crying afresh. "I am a poor washerwoman, and I've lost my money, and I can't pay for a ticket." "That's bad business indeed," said the engine driver. "Lost your money, and can't get home, and got some kids, too, waiting for you, I dare say." "Any amount of 'em," sobbed Toad, "and they'll be hungry and playing with matches." "Well, I'll tell you what I'll do," said the engine driver. "If you'll wash some shirts for me when you get home and send 'em along, I'll give you a ride on my engine." Toad agreed and scrambled up into the cab of the engine. Of course, he had never washed a shirt in his life. The guard waved his flag, the engine driver whistled, and the train moved out of the station. They had covered many a mile when Toad noticed that the engine driver was leaning over the side of the engine. Then he saw him climb onto the coals and gaze out over the top of the train. Then he returned and said to Toad, "It's very strange. We're the last train running in this direction tonight, yet I'm sure that I heard another following us." Toad became alarmed. By this time the moon was shining brightly, and the engine driver, steadying himself on the coal, could see more clearly the line behind them. Presently he called out, "I can see it now. It is an engine coming along at a great pace. It looks as if we are being pursued." The miserable Toad crouched in the coal dust. "The engine is crowded with policemen and the strangest lot of people, all shouting the same thing. Stop!" cried the engine driver. At that moment, Toad fell on his knees and cried, "Save me, dear Mr. Engine Driver. I'm not a washerwoman. I'm the well-known Mr. Toad. I've just escaped from prison." The engine driver looked down upon him very sternly and said, "Now tell the truth. What were you put in prison for?" "It was nothing very much," said poor Toad. "I only borrowed a motor car." The engine driver looked very grave and said, "I fear that you've been a wicked Toad, but you're evidently in distress, so I will not desert you." They piled on more coals. The engine leapt, but still their pursuers gained. The engine driver wiped his brow and said, "It's no good, Toad. They have the better engine. There's just one thing left. A short way ahead of us is a long tunnel, and on the other side of that the line passes through a thick wood. I will put on all the speed I can while we are running through the tunnel. When we are through, I will put on the brakes. The moment it's safe to do so, you must jump and hide in the wood. Then I will go full speed ahead again." They piled on more coals, and the train shot into the tunnel and out at the other end. The wood lay dark and brooding upon either side of the line. The driver shut off the steam and put on the brakes. The toad got down on the step, and as the train slowed, he heard the driver call out, "Now jump!" Toad jumped, rolled down an embankment, and scrambled into the wood and hid. Peeping out, he saw his train get up speed again. Then out of the tunnel burst the pursuing engine. It didn't take long for the toad to realize that it was now very late and dark, and he was in an unknown wood. After so many weeks within walls, he found the wood strange and unfriendly. Toad walked until he could walk no further. At last, cold and tired, he sought the shelter of a hollow tree, where he slept until the morning.